What's up, s'mores? I'm Shannon Morse. Welcome to my YouTube channel all about travel, technology, tech reviews, how-tos, tutorials, pretty much everything that you could ever get excited about, at least me, because I get super excited about traveling and technology. Now, unfortunately, we are not able to travel right now because of the pandemic, so I wanted to send out this video to everybody that I had pre-recorded way back in California before I moved to give you a little bit of an experience of the outside world while we're all stuck inside. But before I get into today's video and this awesome place that I got to visit, I wanted to give a shout out to my newest supporters on Patreon, Musling, Paolo Fabri, and Keith Nagaoka. Thank you so much for your Patreon support. I hope you enjoy all the perks that come with being a Patreon. I also wanted to give a shout out to Binary Jam for supporting me over on buymeacoffee.com/snubs. Now, of course, if you don't want to check out Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon, you can always just subscribe down below. That's the easiest way to support my channel, and I appreciate everybody that does. So today, I wanted to share this amazing place that I visited before I moved out to Colorado. It's called the KPH Radio Station. Now, hearing that, you might think, like, what's so special about a radio station that it warrants a video all about it? Because, you know, radio stations are just that. They're radio stations. Woohoo, nothing special. Well, for one thing, I am a bit of a radio frequency nerd. If you didn't know, if you've never watched my stuff over on HAK5, HAK5, it's a different channel entirely, I learned how to listen in on AIS, which is Automatic Identification Systems that cargo ships or freighters used whenever they were sailing into the San Francisco Bay, heading over to the Richmond or the Oakland terminals from different places across the Pacific, with a very simple little radio antenna and a receiver called an RTL SDR. I basically just plug this thing in through USB, I run the right software, and ta-da! You can see and read where ships originated from, their destinations, their call signs, like their nickname, and a lot more. Now, this in turn got me interested in tracking trains and airplanes. Now, of course, we had flightradar24.com, which basically does the same thing in the browser. It's so much easier. But later on, I learned about listening in on frequencies for truckers and for local hams, amateur radio operators. Now, eventually that led to me wanting to get my ham license too. I am KM6FPP, and no, I do not live in a warehouse in Richmond, California, in case you are wondering about the address on file. I do need to update that since I moved, but I did not live there. Stop creeping on the address. It's really creepy and weird. If you Google map it, that's fine. Go over there and adopt a pet, because there is an adoption place there as well. But no, I don't live there, so stop asking, because that's really weird. Anyway, if you pair ham radio, this interest and hobby that I've grown to love, along with my family name, which is Morse, M-O-R-S-E, just like Morse code, which is no longer needed for a ham license, but it's still super useful nonetheless. And now you know why I was so excited to visit the KPH radio station and the Maritime Radio Historical Society, which is located in Point Reyes, California. But that's not the only reason. Now, if you zoom in and you look at this place on Google Maps, it doesn't look like a lot. It's a building, it kind of looks deserted and spooky, and it's off of a country road that leads to the lighthouse, which is the one I visited in a previous channel, or previous video on this channel, which I think I did just a few weeks ago. People stop along the road to take pictures along this really long driveway that leads to the building. Everyone's over here taking Instagram photos, and it's like, hello, this is the last Morse code radio station that's currently activated right behind you, and nobody goes in there and checks it out. How historical is that? And everybody is over here taking their Instagram photos. There's something wrong here. There's something majorly wrong. Y'all should all be paying them a visit and donating them money so that they can stay in business and they can keep on going, because that is historical and incredible. That's my rant for the day. It's under a bunch of cypress trees. Yeah, it looks really pretty. It's very Instagram worthy, but everybody misses what's at the end of this tunnel. It's a place that has a rich history and is basically a time capsule that will bring you back to the 90s. So as soon as I read about this place online, I just had to visit it. So KPH Radio Station is a time capsule. It really, really is. The station was a working and reliable service for ships in the Pacific and eventually the Atlantic too. They were sending and receiving data about weather, coordinates, time, coastal information. It was basically how ships back in the day would transmit and receive data back and forth. And they did all of this with Morse code. Ha! Awesome! Maritime communications were heavily used in the 1900s, and there were hundreds and hundreds of stations, and each of those different stations had a call sign, and each of them had their own area of coverage. So eventually, satellite transmissions replaced pretty much all of those stations. Most of them got sold off, they got bulldozed, or they got turned into modern buildings. All the equipment was either tossed or sold off or donated. It's no longer used. Luckily, in the case of KPH though, the station got shut down, but the last team just locked the doors and they left. They just left everything there. Everything was left on and in working condition. And that was back in the 90s. So in the 2000s, Point Reyes National Seashore bought the land and all of the artifacts that were left in the KPH radio building. When they unlocked the doors, they found everything was still in pristine condition, left on, so the sea breeze wouldn't rust it out. So now you have volunteers running this radio station and maintaining all of the electronics, completely volunteer-based. They treat the station as a living museum, so anybody from the public can visit and listen to transmissions. You can talk to the volunteers, all of whom have historical experience with Morse code, some from the military, and you can actually get a taste of what it would have been to work at one of those radio stations. Ooh, the screen. It's totally like flashing in my camera because it's so old. Look at that. Oof. That's old school right there.
It's got the spot for the floppy disk.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool. So this is where they still transmit to ships. So there are a bunch of different frequencies from the website in case you want to listen in, because you actually can tune into these different frequencies and listen to everything that's going on in Morse code. So I would recommend pausing or screenshotting or maybe bookmarking this video so you can come back to it in the future, whatever you want, but that way you know exactly what all the frequencies are. Some of them are out of service, all of them are in San Francisco times. The three that they have are KPH, KFS, and K6KPH, and they operate on Saturdays only. Now you can also listen to LF, MF, and HF bands using SDRs if you have an SDR at home. They do have links on their website for those as well. So that last one, that K6KPH, that's actually an amateur station, and it's also the West Coast outlet for many of the ARRL broadcasts. So you can interact with KPH volunteers from home if you are a ham. So from their site they say, and I quote, "Tune to one of the above frequencies and call K6KPH repeatedly within the bounds of the FCC identification requirements, of course, until the operator responds with DE. Then you can send your call sign and any traffic that you may have. Don't worry about high speed. K6KPH operators will respond at the speed of the calling station." Amateurs who want to more fully replicate the experience of working a coast station may call K6KPH using the procedure above. When they hear a DE, they can send their call and their op followed by the last 4 digits of the working frequency that they are going to use, the QSS, just as ship stations would do. And then K6KPH op will respond with op and possibly QSV. And if you don't know what that terminology was, if it just flew over your head, don't worry. That was definitely directed at like the ham radio operators out there, but everything does make sense once you start learning it. This is the last remaining Morse code station in North America. So not only is it the only one still standing, but it was probably the only time I will be able to see how Morse code was used in a commercial setting. Nowadays, Morse code is still transmitted, but it's usually just transmitted to other museums or between hobbyists. Like, you can check out military maritime museums. In fact, if you've ever been to one of those museum ships that they have in LA or the one in Alameda, you may have heard Morse code in their communications room as a demo. And generally, that's actually a real transmission going on between one of the other museums. So the museum accepts visitors on Saturdays, but since it's more remote, they do recommend letting them know ahead of time if you'll be going there, just to make sure that somebody is there to show you around. And if you know how to transmit Morse code, you can try your hand at transmitting right there at the station too. I need to practice. I definitely need to practice. Now, since this is totally volunteer ran, I highly recommend paying them a visit. The folks that work at the station, they're so passionate, they're full of knowledge, they are incredibly welcoming to visitors. I was able to ask every single question I had, probably like 100 questions, and they answered everything as much as they could. The station is fully run on donations too, from folks who want to see this history kept intact. So you can donate, or you can go to their website and you can buy a t-shirt. They have all sorts of t-shirts to choose from. I'm just so incredibly grateful that I was able to go there kind of out of the blue. Like, I randomly found this place on Google Maps. It is not advertised. It's so hard to find, but once you map it out, you can get there from the Bay Area. The experience that I had going here and like checking out how Morse code was used was so cool. It was so cool to see Morse code in action and be welcomed by other radio nerds kind of like me. It's the last actively transmitting radio station in the US that does Morse code. Wow. Oh, look at these old boards. Look at these old boards. Whoa. Oh my gosh. Those capacitors are huge. This is amazing. What's back here? Ooh. Oh my gosh. Oh, they have a whole bunch of call signs up here for different cities. Even Tahiti's on there, FFYI. CNTP for Taipei. Tokyo is JPTK. That makes sense. JPTK. This is awesome. It really is like stepping back into time. Seeing how radio stations used to work. These old machines are just crazy. Wow. And this, oh my gosh. Amazing. There's Samuel Morse. Maybe I'm related, who knows? I should probably find out. He was from Massachusetts, so who knows? Whoa. What is that for? The kite. Oh. The wire antenna is suspended by a box kite or hydrogen-fueled balloon.
Oh, okay. KF7E is going to be calling you on 7 if you have any interest in the video. And after that, you can have 14. Oh, you want 14? In a little while.
That's cool.
So we can slow, I think we can.
I have no clue if I'm ever going to get a chance to go out there again since, you know, my cars are out here in Colorado now, and unless I rented a car in the Bay Area on a visit, it would be very hard to get there. But if you end up going, tell them that I sent you. I told them that I was going to share this place with as many people as I could because I want to see it preserved. So from KM6 FPP to all the amateur radio operators out there, let's keep this history alive. I would love to know if you're going to plan a visit to check out MRHS in Point Reyes. Let me know what you think below. I have some links down below as well, so you can find the address, you can find more information, and you can actually find a secret code, which I didn't know about until after I went. So I did not get to give them that secret code to get into a secret room. Interesting. Anyway, with all that said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you enjoyed hearing about this really interesting place that you can go visit. I can't wait till they're opened up again after the pandemic, and I hope they get lots of visitors. So I'm Snubs. Send me pictures if you do end up going. Check out my Twitter if you don't follow me there, because that's where I usually post pictures. And I hope you enjoyed this video. So I will see you in the next video. Bye.